Hey, everybody. Hey, Christina, Daniel, Dar, Jackie, Melinda, and everybody else that's jumping on. I'm really excited to share this with you. Before I get started in the training today, I was just talking to our team, and I was just sharing with them how excited I was to share this content with you. It's so awesome for me to share story work, because after being in this industry for 8 years and teaching everything from copywriting to Facebook advertising to funnel development to really everything that I've done, I've also turned around and shared with people. I have never seen anything that gets people into such quick results as sharing story, and but it's strategic. And over the next 90 days that you're with us, you're going to get what is missing, what I see as missing in the general conversation about story marketing. And what I typically see the conversation look like is, yeah, we have to have vulnerability, we have to connect, we have to have empathy. But if we just leave it there, what we've done is shared, and we're not really leaving it open for reciprocity. So it's really about getting that authenticity, getting that vulnerability, getting that connection in 1 second with your story, and then understanding your clients so deeply that you also know how to use the story to inspire action. And the difference between what traditional marketing, if that's even a word, would tell you is that we've got to manipulate action. We've got to fear, we've got to hit that lizard brain into action. And I just don't believe that's necessary. I've helped to build a lot of companies, and we've always used inspiring people into action, inspiring people to join your programs or your offerings because they feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves. And so if you walk away with that much from this training, I'll be really, really happy. And then as we go, there's at least 2 modules entirely on story, and so you'll really be in a high level of understanding of how to extract the story gold from your brand, and then how to put it into what I call micro content. So how to use it on Facebook, how to use it in emails, just all these different things that we do. The micro content is really where you'll start to see the difference. So anyways, that's my little sort of excited rant about what we're going to do today. And just if you have questions, just you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I probably will get to them at the end. And what I want to do is get through these slides relatively quickly so that we can actually do half the training today on how you would use this in your company, like how you can do it, how you could start to use it today, like when you get off this training. That's what I really, really believe in, fast action. So you can start using this immediately. And so the first thing that I like to look at is the difference between target market and brand hero, and the difference between demographics and what I call soul graphics or spiritual graphics. And I'm not going to deep dive into this because we are going to deep dive into this in the modules. But a lot of you that have studied marketing, you've been taught target market, and it's a really important thing to understand. And so are demographics. They're really important to understand. If you're like doing what Mike does, which is scale traffic campaigns, you've got to know things like age, and you've got to know, what kind of sports people play and what they like to do on the weekend, and all of these things. And when I read the book Winning the Story Wars, he introduced the term brand hero. And it was the first time I saw it written like that, and I realized this is actually what I've been doing. This is so powerful. And I switched all of my teachings, all of my trainings, and all of my campaigns from this thinking of somebody as a target market, which really, in my emotional body, like that puts them into sort of a commodified relationship with us. And that's great. Like if you're selling tennis rackets or golf clubs, I mean, you can do that. And I'm not criticizing any of that stuff. But for me, I am in the business of typically selling information or a transformational experience, and I know a lot of you are also. And so with that kind of offer, we've got to look a little bit deeper into what's going on at the level of somebody's spirit or their emotions or their soul. And so the concept of brand hero is going to basically put your audience as the hero of the story. And that's pretty much all that you need to know for now. We are going to super deep dive into this. And if you can't wait until module 2, I think is when we're going to do this, then you can get access to Winning the Story Wars, which is a book that I have just about everybody read. And you can get it on Amazon and literally start reading it today. And it'll go really deep into this. But it's essentially the shift from understanding somebody's external likes and dislikes and where they spend their money and just all that kind of stuff to understanding like what they're actually here to do on the planet, why they're actually here, and understanding what I would say is the lower functioning qualities of their archetypal soul energy to the higher functioning qualities. And I'll just give you one example. And like I said, we will go super deep into all this stuff, but just so you're not like, what are you talking about? There is an archetype I work with a lot, and it's the archetype of the alchemist magician. And they tend to be my clients because they tend to be in the coaching industry in general. The coaching industry is a alchemist industry. It's all about transformation. And from studying the archetypes, what I've learned is that on the lower functioning side, the alchemist will stay stuck in addiction, codependency, not believing in themselves, needing an extremely large amount of external validation to do anything, low self-esteem, low self-worth, victim consciousness, judging other people's accomplishments. And so that's where they are when they're not living fully. And so that's where that when we get into the hero's journey, that is the ordinary world. In the hero's journey, that's phase 1. And my job is to actually look at them and say, no, that's not what you're here to be. I get that you're there. I have total empathy for you. I understand it. But we're going to move you through it because at your higher functioning quality, you are actually here to change the world. Like your ideas are so 100 years ahead of everybody else's ideas that you actually have to learn to get grounded. You have to learn how to put your brilliant ideas into a container that other people want to actually open and take in. And that's like what you're here to do. And so my stories have to become about that journey from disempowerment to being like a global leader, a global visionary. And maybe it's just a visionary of a community or a city or a Facebook group, but it's this macro level of leadership. And so because I know that about the alchemist and there's only 12 archetypes, that just changes my ability to tell a really powerful marketing story. And so we're going to get into this more, but if you have been taught target market and you've struggled with your target market, and that's different than like what Mike taught you with Avatar last week, that stuff is really, really important. But if you have been in other programs and they've said target market, you know, it's a guy named 35 to 40 and or whatever, you know, you can still use that stuff, but you can also go much deeper using this process that we're going to talk about. Now, in terms of the function of your story, what you really need to do is, and I kind of already touched on this, the story has to generate emotions, and the emotions have to establish trust, rapport, and empathy. One way to do this, there's a couple of shifts that you can do in your copywriting, like if you're promoting on social media already or if you're writing emails. One of the ways that you can already make this shift is to write in present tense, because that creates more empathy. It draws people into the moment with you, and then they can feel you more. Our tendency tends to be to write in the past tense, especially if we're describing something that happened in the past. But there's usually a way to reframe it. And I do this in almost all of my emails, and I get a very high open rate and a very high response. People feel that I am writing to them specifically, so they write me back, which is a little bit unusual, but it happens a lot with my emails. And the shift that I made was I tell stories, I tell them in present tense. And then I also, another thing is that instead of using a lot of adjectives, like descriptive adjectives about things, which tends to be about you or about what you feel like saying, we would use more verbs because, again, that pulls somebody into the moment, and it also inspires people to go into action mode. And it kind of reminds me, I know this isn't about email, I watched this movie one time, that movie Creed, and there was so much action in the movie, and it was such a powerful story that I literally got up the next morning and wanted to run. And I started running, I started a running practice from just one really powerful story. And so that's kind of the way that I want you to be thinking about your story. That yes, you need to generate emotions. Yes, you need to establish trust and empathy, but if that's all you do, you're probably not going to make a lot of sales, because it's just setting that relationship up just to be like, oh yeah, hey, cool, you're confident, you're a friend, like I can tell you things, I trust you, but it's not necessarily setting up a business relationship, which is what the purpose of everything that Mike and I are teaching you to do is all about. So we're not shying away from wanting you to generate a lot of sales and a lot of money. Now, I actually really like to start with this question, and this really relates, this is probably easier to wrap your mind around if you're a solopreneur, and I know we have several of them on the call. If you're more of an institution, an organization, then you would not really answer this question for yourself per se, although you could and it would be worthwhile. But it's really meant to speak into the heart of the story of the brand. So if that's a personal brand, an organizational brand, a nonprofit brand, what is the story you're here to tell? And I'm going to give you an example of this. I do some volunteer work with a nonprofit, an anti-trafficking nonprofit, and I went to their headquarters in Austin in April to kind of check up on their fundraising efforts, and immediately they, I was asking them, like, what stories are you telling, like what's going on, and they just started, they're like a 5-person organization that's so underfunded, and they're just like spewing all over me about policy in the state of Texas, and I was just like, whoa, like, if this is the story you guys are telling, like nobody, this is overload for people. They're not going to join your cause. And I did 8 hours of story work with them in one day. And at the end of the day, we realized the story that they're here to tell is a story about freedom and how everybody deserves freedom. And we even were able to, like Mike and I taught in the webinar, the we and the why, we were even able to create this sense of a we and a why so they could go fundraise. We decided that they are in Austin, which is the fastest growing tech sector in America, and that most people, and also has the biggest digital marketing company, digital marketer, and all these other marketing companies are there. And we decided, like, this is an entrepreneurial city, and entrepreneurs value freedom. Every entrepreneur that I know has freedom as their number one value, or maybe their number two. Like sometimes it's contribution first, but everyone that I know in internet marketing and entrepreneurship, their jam is like totally freedom. They couldn't live a life that anyone else dictated, and so they took the long, tough road of entrepreneurship, and that's the truth about it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but they value freedom, and so they're creating freedom. And so now we had this really natural, beautiful story arc between what they were trying to do and what, the community around them was trying to do. And they were able to make this video campaign and this ad campaign about how, while you wake up in the morning in Austin and you do whatever it is that you do and you choose your day, there's like girls in Austin that are just being allowed to go to sleep for the night, and they like created this amazing story, and they were getting viral engagement on an ad about human trafficking, which is, in my opinion, my greatest success story, because it's something that most people will really shut down around in a conversation. They're just like, oh, I don't even want to think about that. So using that story and understanding the story that you're here to tell on a deeper level, and it can really just be like one core emotional / value-based word, understanding what that is going to help you identify who your ideal buyers are and to create that we and that why that Mike and I shared with you. So it could be freedom for a lot of you. I know for me, it has been freedom, and it's also been love, and it's also been challenge, like a healthy. So my personal brand takes a stand for people's freedom. It also takes a stand for being really hardcore and really challenging and not letting people sell themselves short, but doing that with love so that they don't just feel challenged for challenge sake, which I believe breaks trust, but actually they feel challenged while also feeling held. And so that's really the story that I am here to tell. And I connect it with a global story of like, we need to get our shit together or we're all probably going to die. And that's really like, if you look at anything that I'm doing in my own marketing, that's pretty much the only story you'll ever see me tell. And so really dialing in this one particular thing will help serve as a compass for all your storytelling efforts, because when story doesn't work, it's going to be because it's vulnerable, but there's no action, or it's missing consistency. So maybe you start telling stories, but they don't tie together with any kind of central theme, and the consistency is what wins. And so really, really dialing this in, and hopefully you've been thinking about what this is for you over the last 5 minutes. This is really important. And then, yeah, like, who are you here to tell it to? So for us with the anti-trafficking organization, we identified that we were here to tell it to young entrepreneurs, because we identified in order to get them $1 million a year budget, which they said would make a huge difference in the lives of trafficking survivors, we realized we only needed 4,000 people to give $25 a month. And zeroing in on who that is, like, this is going to be young tech entrepreneurs in Austin. So knowing that, we can create our ad campaigns and our fundraising campaigns. There are absolutely 4,000 entrepreneurs in Austin who would give, that's $300 a year. Like, I can't even fathom a universe where that's not true. So if we know what we're here to talk about and we know who we're here to tell it to, now we have a business plan. Like, you can see how that plan actually just, like, that plan came to us in 2 minutes in our meeting. And it's impossible to create a solid business plan and a solid story arc to wrap around that business plan without understanding these two pieces. Really powerful stories come from tension or conflict. And I actually like to frame it as positive conflict. Like, when we identify who we are as a storyteller and we identify who we are telling the story to, this is where I always start with story work no matter what level people are at. That is the two poles that the story arc is going to naturally come from. We don't have to fabricate stories. We don't have to make them up. We don't have to, like, go read a storybook and follow the template. It's really just about, who are you? Who are you talking to? What do you want to say to them? And I always tell people when they get tripped up about marketing in general, which happens to the best of us, even Mike and I sometimes, it's like if you were sitting with somebody at lunch, would you think about what to say, or would you just talk to them? And a lot of times, most people are going to say, yeah, I would just, like, if I was sitting across from my friend, I would just talk. I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't strategize around it. And that's how this is too. You know, there should be no distinction between who, you know, how you would talk to somebody in person about these same messages and how you would do it online. So when you can replicate whatever level of mastery you have over influence or inspiration or transformation, let's just take that and replicate that online so that you can reach more people without losing the potency of how you're communicating. And then the second thing that I really like to ask people after, you know, what's the story you're here to tell and who are you here to tell it to, I like to look at sort of, what do you really want for them? And if you could wave a magic wand over their life, what would happen for them? Because a lot of times in marketing, they say market results or market transformation, but this exercise just brings that into a really grounded way so that you can share with these people that you're going to be serving and working with. You can actually share with them, like, where things can go for them if they take a leap of faith and invest with you, whatever that might mean for them. You know, whatever you're asking them to invest, you have to be able to show them where they can possibly end up on the other side. Now, we can't guarantee anything for people, but we can, you know, it is our job as marketers to show them the possibilities. it's their job to step into those possibilities, and everybody has to be flexible that, you know, it could take a different path, and it could be even like Mike was sharing with me before this call, like, yeah, something happened and it was actually way cooler than I had planned. And so we hope that that's always what happens. And what I have discovered is that with story, it's almost guaranteed. And that makes me really happy. So think about this too, you know, if someone was going to invest with you, what would be your highest, most powerful, most empowering wish for them? Because that's the space that we want to hold mentally for them, emotionally for them, spiritually for them. And then that gets translated. That energy can actually be felt in the way that you market. People can feel the energy of the way that you're marketing. If you're marketing from a vision for somebody's highest good, they know that that's true and they feel it, and it makes your job a lot easier, and it just creates brand loyalty and referrals and success stories. And you just need to have all of that in order to reduce your time spent marketing, your money spent marketing. Brand loyalty is going to be your absolute most powerful asset. And I pretty much already said this. That happens a lot when I make slides. I get so excited that I say everything on one slide. And so I've essentially already covered this. Marketing is a one-on-one, intimate conversation that is then scaled out to reach more people. And that's why I always tell people, before you even go to make a funnel or do all this complicated marketing, I want to know that you can sell to somebody on the phone or in person. Because because if you can't do that, your marketing efforts are probably not going to be super compelling. And so all of you can actually start, you know, we haven't even started class yet. All of you can actually start to talk about what you do in a way that's compelling and see how people either say yes or no, or why they say yes or no, because that's the kind of stuff that you're going to want to be able to do online as well, and address all those things online as well. And it's a little bit more scary, and people love the digital marketing ideal because it's like, oh good, I can just set up all this stuff and run traffic through it and make sales. But it actually requires a lot more of your emotional engagement in conversation with people than that. So automation is super powerful, but automation is something I would bake in after I dial in that intimacy part. And this is actually something that I had to learn over many years. It was not something I would have said in a class even a year ago. So who you are, who they are, what they need to hear to take inspired action, that is what I call the core story. Other marketers call the core story many other things. So this isn't like in Webster's dictionary as what a core story is. It's my definition of core story, and it's the work that I do in all my marketing and what I teach people to do, and it gets people into some very interesting quick results. That's been my observation. And so I have a couple of ways of breaking down who are you. And again, like, this is just kind of a pre-training to get you thinking, but we're actually going to cover this in extensive detail in the module. So I'll just say the archetypes is one of the ways that I talk about this. And you can, I use Carl Jung's system of archetypes because I just feel like he dialed it in so good, and then a lot of other people came along after that and made variations, but I'm a little bit traditional in this regard. But even like something like the Enneagram, or even, any system of archetype could be used for this, because archetypes are really the building block of story. They really are. And you can use whatever system you want. I'm going to be doing the teaching and training from Carl Jung's. And so knowing the maybe 2 or 3 archetypes that you relate to the most, it actually gives you the storytelling tone. So that's what we use it for, the tone. And having a consistent tone, a consistent voice creates familiarity, creates brand loyalty, creates viral content. So that's why we do that. Core values. I shared earlier, for me personally, my core values are love and freedom and challenge. And I know challenge isn't a value, but I decided that it was in my brand. So I would say, just for your core values, really define the top 2 or 3 and try to make sure that they're really a word that relates to a value. And really knowing what that is, it's going to make your stories really stand out, again, because of the consistency, but again, because we're a people that are really starved for true connection, and having set values is a way to connect with trust. The why we covered extensively in the webinar. It's essentially just why you do what you do. And that separates you from other people doing it. I know there's some people here representing the massage school that I went to, and I could see this why story being so applicable to differentiating your brand from other schools. First of all, like, you've just been around so much longer, but there is a why it's baked into every process that I ever experienced at that school. And it's honestly why, it's my experience of why there is so much brand loyalty. And so really putting that why front and center in the marketing could be a really big thing for you guys. Maybe you already do that. I don't know. And then the origin story is, a lot of people define this differently. For me, it's really about, why are you doing what you're doing and how did it come to be? And the coolest example I ever heard of this was, a lot of the more appropriate use of Google ads is going to be like services that are more tangible, like coaching and intangible kind of things that we do. Transformation does really, really well with Facebook ads and stories. But if you just have a concrete thing that you're selling, like a plumbing service or vacuum cleaners, like Google AdWords is a really great platform for that. And one of the coolest stories I ever heard about origin stories was a local plumbing service that was advertising on Google AdWords to local people. And when people clicked on the ad, they were taken to a landing page that told their whole origin story of like why they love to serve families, and they're a family business for 30 years, and they're really for the middle class, and talked about their kids and all this kind of stuff. And so if somebody sees that versus like just an ad about, hey, this is our pricing, that creates buyers immediately on the first point of contact. And also, like, if you spend money to get one buyer in that particular way, sharing your origin story, you can guarantee that person is going to continue to use you for plumbing services for the next 20 years unless you do something awful. And then they're also going to tell all their friends about you. So just that one origin story on one page that didn't cost them barely anything to put up created this really huge, like, they were the #1 business in the area for what they did. And it wasn't because they were better or worse than any other service. It's because they shared who they really were with people, and then they went out and they found those people. And it creates this sort of viral sustainability, which is really important to me. I don't want you to have to be marketing every day of your life. I want you to create viral sustainability so that you can do what you actually like doing. And so that's kind of how we decided who are you. And then we want to look at who are they. So who are they is comprised of, for me, what do they care about? What are their values? What are their archetypes, and what are the lower versus higher functioning aspects of their archetype, which I already went through, so I won't go through that again because we've already covered that. And the next thing, I know Mike hit up a lot of these points also in his training last week, but I really like to look at what I call the desire under the desire. I'm not the first person to call it that, but it just really makes sense to me that if somebody comes to me and they know that I'm a marketing coach or whatever I am, then they might say that they want to hire me because they want to make more money. And I can't help somebody that just wants to make more money because I can't connect deeply enough to help them with their strategy. I need to know what they really want. And typically speaking, and you will need to know this for your audience too, like, yeah, I want a career change, or yeah, I want to communicate better with my husband, but why do you want that? You can make a lot of money by understanding the sort of what I would call more surface desires, and people make billions of dollars understanding surface desires, like the desire to lose weight. But I believe a really powerful strategy, a story strategy, will address both the surface desires and the deeper desire at the same time. And that's how I construct my stories. So typically for money, I'm going to find that it's freedom, access, or power that people want. Maybe they want influence, but that's kind of similar to access. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the money. Mike might have something to add later on. Relationships, it's usually, they want love, they want acceptance, they want to feel their value in a relational context. And marketing, when people come to me for marketing and they don't say the money, they just say, I want to get my marketing dialed in. Usually what they want is connection, clarity, and purpose. So if I can understand this about my people, I'm already doing a better job than most of the marketing messages they are bombarded with, which is not taking the time to understand this stuff. And the most recent statistic that I heard is that people ignore 2,000 marketing messages every day. So so that's the big
You're so
deal.
awesome. I just want to say I am here. I'm not saying a damn word because I'm just sitting here going, oh my God, I'm so glad and grateful for you. You guys are you guys there? I know, but nobody said anything, no questions. It's like, holy crap, right? Kylie, you were born to do this, my dear. I know everybody's sitting here thinking the same thing I am, which is, thank God she's on my team. So
I'm so grateful.
I just
I'm so grateful for our collaboration too, because I feel like you intuitively do all of this stuff, whether you took the time to like science it out and talk about it, like you're marketing from this space, and so am I, and that's why we're such a natural fit. And you're just better at stats, so that's really cool too.
I do like the science side. I like to move on this side. You said that I may have something to add, but I don't have anything to add. I'm just sitting here silently listening and watching.
Yeah, and to share a funny little anecdote, I was teaching my Story Mastermind students last night, and I was like, and they had brought up that they had seen our launch Mike, and they were like, oh, I love seeing you and Mike work together. And I'm like, it's really funny because he's just such a numbers guy, and he's so good with numbers, and I'm sitting here going, I just want to make more content and connect with more people.
Totally.
It's so good. It's like you're such a needed piece to everything that I'm trying to do in the world. So yeah, it's and you know what? Like Mike and I are super transparent, so we might interrupt our training to say stuff like that sometimes. And I encourage you to do the same in your business. Like people will trust you more if they know that they're getting what's going on behind the scenes. Like really, truly, I have always shared with my clients my wins and my fails. I've always shared with them like I launched a class about launching, and with all the students, the first class, it was just like, hey, this is where my launch really sucked. This is where it was really awesome. This is what I'm going to do moving forward. I really believe in that style of training, and I think it's missing from our industry. And so you're probably going to get a lot of that from us. We are just not going to bullshit you at all. So, like, there's no
totally. We're not messiahs.
there's no sugarcoating in this community. We're just going to tell you where we fail, where we excel, and where you can get the fastest, most effective results that feel good to you, because that's another value of mine, is it needs to feel good. So what do they need to hear for me to take action? This is the piece that most people are missing. And here it is. What inspires them? What motivates them? What would they take action around, and what are their obstacles? If you guys are actually having contact with the people that are either saying yes or no to your offer, these are the kind of things you need to be tracking. And a lot of times, most of you are intuitive empaths, which means that you can get a lot of information without them saying it. Like, I can sit down with someone for 5 minutes and know a lot about what is internally motivating them because I've been trained extensively. And a lot of you can just already naturally do that. And so you definitely want to use your intuition on this and ask them. These are the kind, and we're going to do, you are going to be doing market research in this class, because I'm not super sciencey, but I do believe heavily in market research. I have a more feel-good way of doing it than probably some other people would train you to do it, but I don't believe in launching anything or launching any campaigns without talking to at least five previous buyers about all of this stuff, because then you can just replicate that and you can find more people exactly like them that have the same hopes, desires, inspirations, motivations, actions, obstacles, and you can speak right into that. And it's so powerful when you actually do that. So this action piece is going to be super, super important. A lot of direct response marketing is very much about just going right into action before, in my experience, they create a whole lot of trust. And I actually think as as an industry, the top leaders in direct response would probably say they are creating trust and then asking for action. But for me as a consumer, it hasn't been enough trust. So I don't really buy that way, and I'm really all for you selling in the way that you buy. So if you sell in a different way than I sell and you buy in a different way than I buy, then follow that over anything I tell you. Like, your buyers are going to buy how you buy, and you should sell the way that they buy. And it should be a continuous arc that feels good to you. So if your buyers buy in this way that doesn't feel good to you, you may have an audience problem. And that's just something to think about as we move forward. Okay, so I said I would do it in 30 minutes, and it was 35, so that was pretty good for me. I actually want to take somebody through that process. So let me just take a second to look at any questions that came in. What I want is somebody to volunteer to go through this process with me.
No, pick me. Sorry.
I will if I have
cheating.
to. All right, Melinda said she will. Let me just unmute her. That'll be awesome. Okay.
Taking action quickly really does make things happen too. I have to admit, Melinda's always there. Like, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's go. And yeah, that matters.
I unmuted you, but it's taking a second for some reason. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I just got to warn you, I'm sitting outside at a coffee shop.
That's cool. No, you're good. You're awesome. Let's go back. And I'm not sure what level of familiarity you have with the archetypes. Do you have any or not?
Yes. Actually, I've been listening to your other material, and I am an alchemist, just like you said.
Okay. Cool. So that means that your gift, one of your gifts, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it tends to mean that your gift is that you can see way ahead of most people, that you are a forward thinker, that you have an ability to come into a situation and transform it on a really deep level, and that you're pretty mission driven. You're probably not super financially driven, but at the same time you want your mission to support your life. Does that feel about right?
Yeah, it pretty much nailed me, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, and that's the power of archetypes, because I've never had a one-on-one conversation with you, and I can tell you things about you. I could go on for an hour, and you might still say, yeah, that's true. So that's really the power of understanding all this. So you have the alchemist primary archetype. Now I want to hear about your top 3 core values.
My top 3 core values? Mm-hmm. Well, love and kindness are the top 2. That's pretty much how I operate. I just try to be nice and loving and kind to everybody.
Beautiful. And tell me your why.
Well, because it doesn't feel good any other way.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. Your why story. Actually, let's zoom out for a second.
Why? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, tell me, refresh my memory of your business.
I'm a medium.
That's what I thought. I didn't want to get it wrong, though. Okay, so you're a medium. Yeah. Do you have like a why? That might just be something that just happened, right? But do you have a why that you do it professionally?
I actually do, and I was making a video about it last night. It's kind of a whole story. But I went through a really bad time in my life. I've always been psychic. I pretended like I wasn't. I went through a really bad time in my life and decided that I wanted to kill myself. Not because I was depressed, but because I just didn't see any reason. I was just taking up resources, basically. It's like, why? Why would I do this? And, but I didn't do it because I have 2 grown children. And the only thing that seemed worse to me than going on every day, going to work, paying my bills, blah, 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 was how they would feel if I did that. So I said, okay, so I guess I got to stick this out, damn it. It blows. But right about that time, my mediumship kicked in. And so I spent 7 years traveled all over the world studying with mediums and didn't even know why I was going to do it. And then for 7 years I did that, and then I went, okay, now I'm going to help other people with my mediumship. And that's what I do now.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's actually a really, that's also a really cool sort of origin story too that you can work with in terms of like, just to go a little deeper with your why, in terms, like what, when you do readings for people, what actually really inspires you? Yeah, what inspires you about that?
Because I know when they leave an appointment with me, they are going to realize that their life is much more important than just what they're doing here, going to work, paying the bills, and do I have a boyfriend, and don't I have a boyfriend, and you know what's going on with my daughter. I know they're going to leave saying, oh, I have a support system I didn't even know about. I got people looking out for me I didn't even know existed. I know that because I experience it every single time I do a reading for someone. Even skeptics.
Yeah.
I've had skeptics say, okay, I came in here with an open mind, and now I realize there's a lot more going on than I knew about. So that's what motivated me to share it with other people.
Would you even say that, in a sense, the core emotional need that you're fulfilling in your clients is the need for significance?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to be a big part of your story strategy, like huge. This is really great. Okay. And then, yeah, so you kind of touched on the origin story and the why at the same time. So I took a couple notes on what you were saying, and now we're going to flip and focus on who are they.
Okay.
So yeah, what's your, and I know everybody has different types of clients in terms of, I'm sure you see all sorts of genders, races, sexual orientations, geographic locations, and you probably can't pin it from that level with what you're doing. Some people can, some people can't. With you probably won't be able to do that. So I like to just look at, I'll give you all an example. This is really useful for all of you in determining your brand hero. I had a client who was working with all professionals, and they were like PhD level, and a lot of them were doctors, lawyers, accountants, attorneys, and she was just like, I was trying to get her to define her brand hero, and she's just like, I can't do it. They're all different. They're all from different places, and I'm like, yeah, but there has to be something that they're coming to you for, and we need to know what it is. And finally, after this took the longest of anyone that I ever worked with, but finally we came to a place where we said, okay, she said, you know what? They're all really well accomplished, and they all second guess themselves, and they come to me for validation. And I was like, okay, that's a really good place to start. And so you may find that your people are different on an external physical body level, but that there's something that all of them are having in common. And so tell me about that.
That is their connection to their family.
Okay, awesome.
They're coming to connect to their family. Everybody who comes to me, or somebody who is close to them like family, a best friend, or a sister-in-law or someone, but they're all here to connect to a family member they've lost.
Okay. I love that.
And even I did a survey last week, just a real informal one, and asked my clients, who's the most important person in your life? Every one of them said their mother or their father.
Oh, wow. That's such good information for you to know. Yeah, my brain is on fire with Facebook ad targeting on that. So, yeah. Okay, great. So obviously we could say that part of their values is connection and connection to family specifically. What else?
Security and love, relationships, knowing that somebody wants them, that thinks they have value.
Being valued. Okay, this is so good. Thank you for playing, because you're doing a great job. And in terms of archetypes, you see have you identified a pattern just from thinking about this, or do you think they're kind of all of the, like they come from all over maybe?
No, I've kind of narrowed it down to the caretaker / the sage. Kind of a
That's what I was
combination
going
of
to
the two.
say. I was going to say caregiver. But caregiver sage is really cool because the sage is really inquisitive at the level of the mind. So you're going to make the sale probably because of the sage. Like the caregiver is one of the archetypes that is least likely to invest in themselves. Now they will invest in something like what you're doing because it's not necessarily just about them. It's also connecting with their family, which the reason I guess you were dealing with a caregiver is because you said they value their connection to their family, and that's the caregiver is really a relational archetype. Whereas the hero is all about self, the caregiver is really they identify relationally. So that's kind of why I was thinking that. But the sage is in constant pursuit of expanded knowledge and information, and so the sage is going to be the part of them that goes, yeah, I want to pay money to get this information.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually a great combination for your people, and you can the more you study those two archetypes and the more you know about them, the more you're going to be able to write marketing copy that just hits right in the heart and inspires that action. So, okay, I can just briefly go through I'm going to briefly talk about my understanding of the lower versus higher functioning aspects of sage and caregiver. The sage is super freaking smart, but they sometimes think themselves into a lack of success because they're the people that are always like, I have to know more before I act. I've got to think more about this before I decide. So they have like analysis paralysis, but they also have the ability to give wisdom that is life-giving at a national level or a global level. So if you look at the way that archetypes have played out historically, in the royal court, every monarch had a sage, an alchemist, and a jester on their court, and the archetype of power could not function properly without the archetype of wisdom, humor, and transformation. And so that's kind of like my opinion of what's gone wrong in our world today. Like we're not functioning archetypally like we should be, but the thing is that the sage has the ability to inform the ruler. Like they're that wise. Like that's their appropriate place. And then and so the highest function, they're like people like Plato and Aristotle, and people like advisors to royalty, and just things like that. They're really amazing philosophers that can change the whole world with their ideas. And in the lower functioning side, they can kind of go like, I am lost in my thoughts. I need to read 50 more books before I teach math 101. You know, it's like, actually, you don't. So that's kind of the stage. And then the caregiver is, obviously, we need compassion in this world. We need love. We need somebody to comfort us. We need the mother archetype. Like that's what we're really looking at in the higher functioning caregiver is like, wow, where would the world be without moms? I mean, we wouldn't even be here. So there's a lot of that going on. But then at the lower end, we've got a lot of codependency, putting everybody else first. I don't matter. And then that turns inward into anger and depression. So that's kind of who you're dealing with. Like that's your piece.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, does that resonate for you?
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, cool.
Especially the caregiver stuff. I hear that a lot. Well, I'd like to do it, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll be worth it for me, and things like that. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so we'll get into ways that you can deal with that through story, which is really cool, because then it takes the pressure off you. You just tell people a story and let them decide. It takes the pressure off you to be a pushy salesperson. And, okay, so let's review this really quickly. We've established the two poles, the two positive points of tension, which is you and them. And so, you know, what you told me is basically that you are this alchemist. So you are this agent or this catalyst for really profound transformation. The way that you deliver that transformation is through love and kindness, and specifically, you know, your talent of mediumship. You also told me, without telling me, that you operate from a really high standard of integrity, and that your life circumstance of depression was a pivotal point where, when you came through the other side, you were of service to all of these people that need to feel connected and significant. So that's kind of like the who you are piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then the who they are pieces, they're looking for a deeper connection, especially to their family. They value connection. They value connection to family and connection in general. They value significance. They want security, love, and validation. So being the alchemist, agent of transformation, delivering from love, and then what is the natural story that particular energy has for somebody who values family, wants security, wants validation, wants love, and is missing maybe this connection to their loved one? I can come up with a million, but what do you think it is?
I don't know. I don't have an answer.
All right. Well, let's play just for a minute with the idea of the way that I like to do it, if you get stuck, is just to zero in on the archetypes, and all the other stuff becomes part of the details instead of like the heart of the story. Like, we want to know all this other stuff as details, but if we were to look at the highest functioning, the story arc should follow the highest functioning quality of the storyteller, which is the alchemist, and it should speak to the lowest functioning quality of the caregiver stage and bring them up to their higher. That's how we want to tell our stories. Okay. So basically, the way that I see it unfolding is this idea of the alchemist is the agent for massive, enlightened, empowered, inspired transformation.
Okay.
And what these people are missing is two things. They're missing, they have information and they have love, but they're not connecting the dots in a self-validating way, and they feel disconnected. They feel they feel misunderstood. They feel invalidated, and they feel a lack of contribution and connection and being seen. And so, knowing that you are this huge force of nature for transformation through love, you can come in and you can tell the story of you are totally valuable, you are totally seen, you are totally respected, and you're loved. And because the caregiver exists in relation, you tell that story by saying, look, I actually can show you how connected you still are to all the people who loved you when they were here. And I can show you how you're connected to such a bigger purpose than what you can see in your everyday life. And
I just made a video about this yesterday, too.
What did you say?
Sorry, I made a video about this very thing yesterday, too.
Yeah, you already nailed it. You already dialed it in. It's like, cool. That's what it is. It's like, that's a core story for you. So you could come up, any story arc that you can come up with that makes sense for picturing the alchemist at lunch with the caregiver stage and what natural conversations would happen there. Any of those arcs, like, this is one core story for you. I don't believe we have to only have one. We can have 10 as long as they're authentic. But now what you do with this is you pick a specific time in your life or a client's life or something historical or something on the news or something in a movie, and you tell a story exactly about that. So it would be a time where, like you shared in your origin story, you felt so disconnected and so depressed, and actually what kept you connecting to inspiration was your family, and that through continuing to connect with family, you were actually brought into your purpose, and you were brought into significance, and you were brought into meaning. And that's a really powerful story that you can share that is running through their unconscious mind already. And so they're going to see that story and go, oh my God, I feel so understood by you.
Awesome. Awesome. That's so cool because that's where I was going yesterday. I just
That's
didn't
awesome.
realize. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but you're describing pretty much what I've been working on the last couple of days. So yay
Well,
me.
that is incredibly validating for both of us. Like that's how story work is, and so what we'll be doing with you is really finding the nuances of like, okay, I'm going to tell this piece of this story in 200 words on Facebook. So I'm just going to tell. So where we go from the core story is we go into micro stories. And so now you're going to start just cataloging experiences that you remember or that you think of that kind of has the essence of this story. But, you know, for example, I sent an email to my list about a bag of potato chips on a bus. And it was really a story about your vision is bigger than your fear, but it was really about me sitting on a bus and this lady stole my potato chips and what happened after that. So you can use any mundane experience from your life to actually create that deeper connection. And the core story becomes a barometer or a compass for what details am I going to share.
Oh man, this is so cool, Kylie. You have no idea how excited I am.
I am so excited for your excitement. Like, this is, like Mike said, this is like what I really live to do. Like, this excites me more than probably anything else I'm going to do today.
You're born. You live to do it.
I have a list of Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was great. So please keep me updated on anything that comes up for you after this conversation, or any pieces of like ideas for micro content that you want to run with. But it sounds like you're already doing it. It sounds like you already nailed it. So beautiful. I know this is a 60-minute training, and I also know that we went over last time. So here's what I would like to do. We don't have time necessarily to go through an entire arc like that. But if anybody has questions on any piece of what I just talked about in the last hour, then I'm completely happy to answer those. And they may be coming into the chat. I'm not as good at Mike as following the chat, to be honest with you. It distracts me. Ananda said, I really relate to how you describe alchemists. Almost everybody in a coaching, almost anybody in a coaching program is going to have this as one of their archetypes. It just never fails. Revital said, how do I analyze the archetype of my clients? I'm going to put you through a process to do that in module 2 or 3. I can't remember, but you're actually going to read about the archetypes and then do your best guess, or you're going to reach out to them and have them read it and tell you what they identify with, and you're going to find a pattern. That's how it happened for me. That's how I discovered. I actually asked my people to take a quiz or to look at what they identify with, and it was just alchemists, like 90%. So, and Christina said, where do you read more about the types, lower and higher functioning? There's not a lot of great books that are just about archetypes. There is one called Awakening the Heroes Within by Carol Pearson, and she has a chart where she actually goes through the 4 phases of the development of archetypes. So I consider that lower to higher functioning, and that's the only place that I know of that's in a book. But I just Google like archetypes for branding, archetypes for business, and I find so much micro content on it, and there's a lot of sites that will talk about this. They call it the shadow side and the light side, or the negative side and the positive side. So if you just Google it, you'll find a lot of stuff like that. And as I'm reading, because I read about this stuff all the time, if I find another source, then I'll let you know. But Carol Pearson is like a gold mine for that. And the word funnel, okay. The word funnel adds to the general overwhelm of doing all this solo. Do you guys have an opinion of whether one seriously powerful sales video can make it happen to at least get things rolling? And then maybe have the budget team to create a full funnel down the line. I am the last person who's ever going to tell you to make a sales video, to be honest with you. Like, I actually make sales videos, but I would rather see you start to put out really good content that inspires your audience, because one really good video that inspires your audience with one call to action for them to get in touch with you through email or through a contact form, I think that does better than a professionally made, like, super scripted sales video, which has its place, but it does not have its place as the first point of contact. It's actually a disservice to you and to your client to go right into a sale immediately like that. But I am of the school of thought that you could make one or two really good videos that really nail it for you. And I probably on average get one sale or one new client per piece of content that I put out there. So if you're putting out content every single day and it's really hitting it home, and that's something you can do in 5 to 20 minutes without a funnel, then I would focus your attention there. And you're right, like, to create a really rocking funnel, you do need to outsource some of that work. So I am of the school of thought that you can and should be making warm market sales before you try to complexify things. And that's my stand, and I'm not probably going to change my mind on that. And once you dial in that process and how you're doing it and why people are saying yes to you and why they're not, then you take that information, you put it in a funnel, and you scale, because you can't have scale without a funnel. And so that's the way that I have, I've been doing this for 8 years, and that's the way that I deal with, if I'm hired by a multi-million-dollar company, I'm going to go right into funnel development. If I'm working with a solopreneur, I'm going to say, how can you use stories on social media and videos to get people into your programs? Because that's just where you're at. And so does that answer your question? And Mike, do you have anything to add?
I muted her. There was a lot of bad stuff going on in the background. Hopefully, hopefully that was okay. I don't have anything to add. I'm just like sitting here going, okay, I listen to your trainings and you make things seem so simple that I'm like, oh my God, she just made it so simple. I really need to just take a page from your book here, my dear. I don't have anything to add. The only thing that I will say, actually, I was going to say I don't have anything to add, but I guess I really do. Is that I love how you talked about the core story and then the micro stories. I think that's really important, and I love how you have set the distinction between the core story not being a core story of here's my story and I don't want to change who I am and I'm not changing for anybody, into here's the core story that my audience needs from me and how I can share portions of myself and portions of my day, like the sandwich being stolen on the bus. I remember you sending that story, Kylie. That's one of the first stories I read of yours, and I was like, damn, I like this girl.
Potato chips.
Well, potato chips, that's what it was, the potato chips. I read it, actually. Wasn't that at the airport, right?
It was at the Port Authority in New York City.
See? How you guys think about that? Kylie and I weren't even working together at that time. I just read this story about potato chips at the airport, and I was like, God, this girl is so good. So anyhow, if you can't tell, I get really motivated by you. So I'm totally motivated by the fact that you're separating the core story that the customer needs from you and the things in your life that you can pull those stories out of, and they don't have to be some sort of grandiose, like revolutionary thing. It can be something as simple as the potato. Can you find that story and send it to everybody? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's in part of their. It's going to all of my best emails are in a PDF, and I'm giving it to them in module. I think I don't remember. It's in there. We can put it up early though. That's fine. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So like I'm already giving that to them, because that email series made me. I sent 3 emails to my list, and I filled a mastermind from those 3 emails with no videos, no webinars, no anything, no opt-in page, and I did $32K in sales from those 3 emails. And so I share them with everybody, because I think that I like to keep things really simple for people, because as I've worked from everybody to the starting out entrepreneur with no budget to multi-million-dollar companies, I see that all of this stuff that I'm teaching and that you're teaching can be adapted to wherever you're at. And I think the biggest short sight, I'm not sure what the word is, but the biggest disservice that internet marketers that we do is that we tell people that they need to come up to where we're at in order to get the results that we've gotten. And I actually really believe in meeting people where they're at, because I had nothing but an ability to create good content when I started. And that ability to create content, I built my entire business to 6 figures with nothing but posting on my Facebook profile. And so I really believe that everything that we're teaching you is from the simplest to the most complex, and you have to decide for yourself, what of this can I do? What of this do I have the budget to do? What of this feels good to me? You know, we're not putting you through a meat grinder. Like, that's not what's happening.
Totally.
Yeah. So I really believe in that. Tiny detail, Jackie says, tiny detail, but just casual background help with those videos, make it more one-on-one. I got a phone call a couple weeks ago from somebody who is known for video marketing. Like, that's kind of what she hangs her hat on. And she called me and asked me, how do I create such powerful connection in my videos? And I was really floored by that. And I watched a couple of her videos, and I noticed she had like a white backdrop and like all that stuff that I was told about videos. Like, you have to have this kind of lighting. I actually don't care. Like I worked for a company that was a luxury brand, and they had Hollywood producers come and make their videos. And you know what? We sold $2.5 million worth of stuff from those videos. And it was all ideal clients. And because for her brand, that was a match. That was a match because that's who she is. Like, she's high production. And for me, I'm just really laid back, and so I will literally make a video and say like, oh, I'm in my gym clothes. I just got back from the gym, and you know, my hair's not brushed, and like that works for me because that's actually who I really am. And so I think if you're a more casual person, then have a more casual background. If you're more like, if you find that your archetype is like the royal archetype or some of those higher touch things, then you may find that having a fancy backdrop feels really good to you. The point is, you have to feel good about what you're doing. So there's no like black or white way. And yeah. Revital's asking me to repeat. The story was, I don't know why your sound went out, but all I was saying is that you need to have a match between the style of your videos and who you are as a person. So that's the essence of what I said.
Exactly.
Okay.
I could never do. I used to watch Evan Pagan's videos a long time ago, and I was thinking, I don't want to be against a white background and sitting in front of a perfectly clean and empty table. I shoot my videos sitting in front of my big screen at my unfinished desk, and I don't really care because that's just who I am.
Yeah, and like Jonathan Budd is one of my favorite video. Like, I love his videos so much, and he will literally take his iPhone and go on a walk around his neighborhood and just hold his iPhone in front of his face and be like, okay, guys, I'm thinking about you, and here's what is going on with me. And this is a kid that, I mean, when he was 26, he had already built a company up to $20 million because he just was like none of his stuff was super, super polished. He was just real, and people wanted to be around that. And so that's why you know, his stuff was successful. And a lot of these really, really polished videos, they have a place, and they especially have a place in like corporate, but they don't necessarily have a place in making a genuine heart connection. And probably most of you are not at the place, like we mentioned Evan, where Evan can probably spend $1 million on traffic and not miss it. You know, so it's like we're not in that space where super, super polished is probably going to be of service unless you really feel it. Christina, I said Jonathan Budd. It's Budd.
Oh, one other thing I want to mention on that too, Kylie, is that Evan at the time was releasing a course. Remember, his audience, he was releasing a course about production and about being a hyper-optimized human. So in his mind's eye, he thought that that's also part of what his audience wanted from him, was a polished and clean individual.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But your avatar is exactly.
yeah, he's a super smart guy. Like, he understands psychology like almost no other marketer in our space. And so he definitely thought about that. Like, if he thought it would be more effective to be like driving his car while making a video, he would have probably done that.
Totally.
And people do it. You know, people do it. I have seen this happen where people are driving their car making videos, and I'm like, that's a little scary for me. But okay. Let me scroll and see if I missed anything. I don't think I did, but actually I think I saw a hand raised, and I will take a look at that again and see what we've got here. Oh, no, there isn't any. Okay. Yeah, you can just type them in the chat if you have anything else, and we can wrap it up, or, you know, I'll stay and
remember too, guys, this is just the first part of the story venture. We're actually gonna have an entire module. We're starting the course next week. So is it next week, right? The week after.
Yeah, so Christina wants to know if Facebook is the best way to talk to you guys. Absolutely. If you have questions, then ask them inside of the Facebook group. We believe that everybody will get the most benefit from that, and I don't have the personal bandwidth to answer anything outside of that format. So that would be really, really awesome. Yes, you can absolutely post your videos. We would love to see what you're doing with this information. And cool. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, we're going to wrap it up. I'm really honored and moved by your participation, by your inspiration, by your questions, just by showing up for yourself. You know, Mike and I can give you all the information in the world, but if you don't do anything with it, you don't do anything with it. And so even just showing up today indicates to me that you're ready to use this stuff. So have an awesome weekend. We're going to be starting on Halloween, and if you're out trick-or-treating and can't make it, the recording will be up in the members area within 24 hours. And yeah, we're just super excited to go on this journey with you all. So thank you for saying yes, and have an awesome weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here.